Hi, I'm Brian. Welcome back to another On the Road video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Stop! Before beginning any repair, always be sure to disconnect the power to the appliance. It is also recommended to test the outlet for proper voltage. Okay, today we're working on a top load Maytag Bravos washer, and the complaint is during spin it's very loud. So if we open the lid here and take a look, if we just manually spin this basket with our hand, you can actually hear the noise there already as it's spinning, that grinding bearing type noise. So on this washer, what it has is a gear case, which is in essence a transmission, and that's going to be where our bearings and gears are that's creating that grinding noise. So for this repair, we will need to replace our gear case. The tools needed for this repair are a Phillips screwdriver, a flat blade screwdriver, a 1/4 inch nut driver, a 5/16 inch nut driver, a 7/16 socket, a 1/2 inch socket, a 10 millimeter nut driver, a crescent wrench, and a pair of channel lock pliers. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is open the lid of the machine here to gain access to the tub, and to do that, there's 2 1/4 inch screws on the back. Alright, so with the 2 1/4 inch screws removed, we are now able to pull forward on the top lid assembly and then lift up and then go back. So now we can tip this up. We're going to use a towel here over the edge, and you could also use some tape and tape the lid down so that it doesn't pop open on you. And we're just using this towel to come back and protect it against the cabinet or wall or whatever we're going to be leaning against here. Alright, now we can take the tub ring off, and we're going to use a small flat blade screwdriver to come in here and release the lip from the, or we're going to release the tub ring from the tabs on the outer tub. Alright, next we can remove the agitator. There's a top cap on the agitator here, and there's going to be a notch that we can put our flat blade screwdriver on and remove the cap here. And next we can remove the bolt that's holding the impeller in place. Alright, so this is going to be a 7/16 socket. Alright, so there's going to be this plastic clip that's going to hold our basket onto the transmission or the gear case shaft here. So we just need to use a flat blade screwdriver and pry that out of here. So then we can remove the basket. Alright, so here's our gear case assembly, and we have our motor and our pulley and everything else attached onto the gear case that we're going to have to swap over. So what we're going to do is remove this all as one assembly and swap everything over while it's not on the washing machine. So first thing we got to do is remove all the wiring to everything. We'll go ahead and start over here with the drain pump harness. Little cover that we have to pull open, and then push in on the tab and release the harness here. Alright, same thing here with the shifter. There's 2 tabs on this one on the top to push in to remove it, and the capacitor, we're just going to pull that off of there, and you always want to make sure you discharge your capacitor. You can do that by taking a piece of metal, like an insulated screwdriver, not touching the metal portion, and shorting out the 2 terminals. And then there's going to be these clips that hold the wiring harnesses into the gear case here. So we're going to pull all of those out. There's one back here. And then our motor harness. All right, and then we can actually leave our drain pump on. When we take the gear case out, we can maneuver it so that it won't catch on the drain pump and break anything there. So to have more room, if you'd like, you can always remove the drain pump. You're gonna have some water that comes out of there, but it's not necessary. All right, so to remove the gear case, there's gonna be 4 10mm screws holding it in place. All right, so now the gear case and everything will come down for us. And then the tub seal, it comes on the shaft of the transmission on the new one, and this old one is stayed up in the tub, so you just gotta pry that out of there with. There it goes. And just kind of clean this area up here. Make sure there's no debris or water. All right, so we got the old gear case and the new gear case, and you can see that there's some components that we're going to swap over from the old to the new, including our motor, shifter, capacitor, split assembly. So we're going to take the motor cover off first. There's 2 5/16 screws. The next thing is we can remove the belt. All right, we'll go ahead and remove our pulley here. Next, one trick or one thing that you can do is actually, while this is all still on the machine with a basket attached, you can actually tip it back, take the motor cover off, and this nut then will be easier to remove because you're gonna have the weight of the basket and everything on there, which makes it easy to break free instead of now where it's just gonna spin freely on us. So we're gonna have to use a adjustable wrench on this side and a pair of pliers or channel locks or something on the other side to hold it in place. All right, next we'll remove our cam, and to do that there's going to be 4 tabs on the cam that go in and lock into the case of the gear case here. There's a push in on those as we're pulling down or out on the cam here. All right, and that will come off, and then part of the cam here, this little eyelet goes on the shifter, so we're going to move that off of there, and then we can take everything off here, including the spring. All right, so to remove the capacitor, it's just kind of tabbed in place, no screws or anything. We use a flat blade screwdriver, pry up on the back of it as we rotate it this direction here, and it'll come out for us. Next, we can do the shifter, or the actuator, they also call it. 2 green Phillips screws holding it in place. And the last thing is going to be our motor, and that socket size is 1/2 inch for the 2 bolts holding the motor in place. All right, we'll start with the motor. All right, and if you're using a drill to do this, you're gonna wanna take a socket and your socket wrench afterwards and just make sure that they're snug. All right, next we'll reinstall our shifter. And our capacitor, you can see on the bottom of the capacitor there's like this X shape in the square, so we're going to line up the X this way and rotate it into position, and then there's a tab on the bottom of the capacitor that's going to go in this hole and lock it in place. So now we're going to have our spring, and then this piece of the cam, and we're going to make sure that this gets on the tab here, or the arm of the actuator. And then we're going to line our tabs up on the cam back into the holes on the gear case. You can see there's a notch out here on this portion, which goes here to allow clearance for the actuator arm. Now we can reinstall the pulley. And then you can see when removing this nut from the pulley here, previously there was blue Loctite or thread sealant on here, so we're going to reapply some blue thread sealant. All right, next we can reinstall the belt. We're going to put on the smaller pulley first and roll it onto the larger pulley. Make sure it all lines up. And last we have the motor cover. All right, so now we can reinstall our gear case assembly back into the washer here, the tub. You can see the new seal comes on the transmission, so you just have to slide it all in there and it'll fit where it's supposed to fit at. Just be careful with this gear case, these edges here are very sharp. All right, and same thing on this. If you're using a drill, you want to go through and make sure they're all snug with the socket wrench. All right, next we can go ahead and put all of our wire harnesses back in place. Start here with the drain pump. This has a little tab the wire hooks into. Okay, now that we have all the components and the new gear case installed on the bottom, we can go ahead and tip the washer back down, reinstall the basket, the impeller, and the tub ring, and test it out, check for any water leaks. All right, we got everything back together and we're just running it through a wash cycle right now. It's already filled up with water and we're agitating, so we're just gonna let this run a little bit, let it spin and drain, and check for any water leaks. Okay, so we made sure there were no water leaks. Next thing we're gonna do is just kind of spin the basket here and show now that, you know, there's no noise coming from that when you spin it like it was originally. And the gear case, the new gear case has taken care of that noise. And the last thing we wanna do is certain components that you replace on the machine, as far as a control or the actuator, they want you to do a calibration mode. And I think that in this case, they might not necessarily call for a calibration mode with this piece or part being replaced, but I like to do it anyways. I think it's helpful. So what we'll do is enter the diagnostic mode, and to do that on this one here, what you gotta do is take the selector knob and we're gonna go left, right, 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 left, right. And you know it's in diagnostic mode because all the lights here are flashing at us. And then to get to the calibration mode, we're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, so that only the rinse light is illuminated. And we're gonna hit the start button. And you can tell it's calibrating now with the blinking lights cycling through. And this takes about 2 minutes or so to go through the calibration. Okay, with that done, that will complete your repair. Thank you for watching another quality video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com.